Welcome to the Fitgenes podcast with Dr. Sam Shay, DC, functional medicine certified professional and Fitgenes certified practitioner. Your genes are your most powerful blueprint. It holds the story of how your body truly works. This show is here for one reason: to decode your DNA, making genetics practical, guiding you towards your best nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle choices. Whether you're a health seeker, a lifelong learner, a practitioner, or a health coach ready to go deeper, this is your place to make sense of genetics. Together, we'll cut through the noise, turn data into insight, and help you communicate with confidence so you can create real change in yourself and in those you support. Each episode breaks down complex genetics into clear, usable frameworks you can actually apply. So stop guessing, start decoding, and let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome back to the show. We're here with Dr. Sam Shay, DC, functional medicine certified professional. I am your co-host, Mikayla Wachsmann, master's in human nutrition and functional medicine, board certified clinical nutritionist, and former mentee of Dr. Sam. Today we're diving into lactose intolerance. And Dr. Sam, why are we talking about lactose intolerance, and why from a genetics point of view?
Lactose, milk is everywhere in modern day times. And so when people are wanting to figure out what is their optimal health, what is their optimal pathway, their optimal blueprint towards health, and what's their optimal diet, you have to understand your relationship to dairy.
Yeah.
You have to, because it's everywhere, and it can even in hidden things. Like you could have dairy byproducts in sauces. You can have them when you go out to restaurants. They can be in packaged foods. There's just dairy can be just anywhere, and you just have to know your reality and your relationship to dairy. Now, not all dairy is created equal, and not all dairy products have lactose. But the place to start is to understand your relationship to lactose intolerance, and that is genetically determined. And the way that most people find out if they're lactose intolerant is if they're eating dairy products and then they feel bad.
Yeah.
Like so
for that urgent bathroom trip.
Or it can be, it look like any number of things. It could be gas, it could be bloating, it can be diarrhea,
Acne.
it can be acne. I've seen that a lot. It can be other skin problems. It could be just any type of generic indigestion. For me, it's like really bad fatigue, and like
which people wouldn't associate with dairy in particular. I would say in the general population. So lactose intolerance and dairy, like it's a very if I want to say convoluted concept, and the genetic variation of lactose intolerance specifically that we can really better understand and thus have better health is what are we looking at here?
So the technical term is we're talking about the LCT gene, and the technical phrase is this is a great Scrabble phrase, so just forgive me if you're not interested in the polysyllabic jargon, but here we are. Lactase fluorescein hydrolase.
Ooh, I love
fluorescein, this is like the best Scrabble word ever, spelled PHLORIZIN.
I think that's a great also spelling bee word.
Yeah, totally. And the RSID number, just for sake of completion, we're talking about RS4988235. And what's interesting about this is that the actual variation is not specifically on the actual variation that determines if someone has the ability to continue to make the enzyme to break down lactose sugar going forward is not actually on the enzyme, is not on the gene that actually makes lactase. It's actually on a nearby gene, technically the MCM6 sector, where it's more like a control switch, where
the LCT gene,
the variation. So there's the gene that makes the enzyme, but the variation we're talking about is the gene that is the switch that allows that gene that makes the enzyme to continue to operate after weaning.
Got it.
So it's a upstream control switch rather than the actual enzyme, the gene that makes the enzyme itself. And the reason why why that switch system is there is because you need the gene to break down lactase as an infant, because breast milk contains lactose, and when you need that enzyme to break down lactose into glucose and galactose, which are simple sugars, in order for you to have energy for an infant to grow.
Right.
So when an infant stops breastfeeding, then that switch would normally turn off or block the ability for the lactase enzyme to be produced.
So this is why people, as they get older, and there's this kind of phenomenon of people having lactose or dairy intolerance as they get older,
or right after weaning.
Or
Older can start at age like 1 or 2,
Yeah.
depending. Yeah.
and I don't think that's something that everyone knows, really. Like, there's actually and is there a particular reason other than we're not getting breast milk to why that switch is turned off? Because we still will eat dairy products, or if you
Some
tolerate them.
some people will eat them and not tolerate them, or not really have the level of body awareness, or not care that they're not digesting it, much to the detriment of people within smell range.
Yeah.
So the question is like, why did lactose tolerance develop? Because the reality is that the majority of the population around the world is not tolerant to dairy after weaning. So why did lactase persistence evolve? And it's an example of how like our genes didn't just stop evolving however many hundreds thousands of years ago. There's actually ongoing adaptation based on environmental bottlenecks. And when you've got it coincided with the domestication of milk producing animals. And the reason why, if we go back to before there was widespread domestication in certain regions around the world of milk producing mammals, what happened instead was your body is very conservative in what resources it allocates to produce enzymes and proteins. If you are no longer breastfeeding, then why would you continue to waste resources making enzymes to break down milk sugars which you would not be exposed to? So it's
More on like tissue repair or
anything,
growth,
literally
development,
anything,
hormones, yeah.
like
Okay.
any resource you're allocating. So it's like if you're running a business, why would you allocate resources to a part of the business that is no longer relevant or necessary?
Yeah,
So
that
it's
makes sense.
the same thing in the body. It's like you are dedicating resources, vitamins, nutrients, amino acids for sure, towards the creation of an enzyme. And if you don't need the enzyme anymore, you're better off reallocating those resources. So that's why it makes sense to shut down that enzyme if you no longer need it. Now, then we fast forward in our evolutionary history, where we've got now the domestication of milk-producing mammals. Goats, sheep, cows, camels are kind of the most common examples. There was an evolutionary advantage for survivability because if you could now continue to consume dairy beyond your weaning years, you now, because what is a milk producing mammal? It's a mobile source of calories and water and nutrients that can produce year round and move with you. So you're not dependent on it's portable.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that dairy can be cultured or fermented or otherwise stored, like cheeses, for long periods of time, particularly when you've got access to, and you're combining other things like beeswax. You can now ferment and culture cheese, wrap it in beeswax, and now you basically are able to prevent starvation during the most acute times of seasonal calorie deficit. So they're in and so what happens is you've got a local culture that has milk producing mammals. The individuals that have the genetic mutation to maintain the lactase enzyme, they survive and thrive better than those that don't. Even just socially, they're not foul-smelling, gassy, bloaty, diarrhea, so there's an increased mate value just from that.
Yeah.
Not to sound crude, but let's just be real. And so then they will then have more, they will survive longer because simply now they have access to more calories and they're more socially desirable. And then they will have more children and their lineage will perpetuate and have more kids and will just kind of keep feeding on itself. And that's why you get these genetic bottlenecks of specific areas around the world that have lactose tolerance.
I see.
And
that would be the lactose tolerance in the verbiage of red, green, and yellow dot would be.
Yeah. So so the red, green, and yellow dot is, it's not based on what's the majority in the population. It's based on what's most beneficial in modern day society. So what's most beneficial today is to have the genes to break down lactose. So green dot are the people that have the gene. Actually, they have the variation to maintain their ability to break down lactose. Now, one thing that's unique about the LCT gene variation compared to almost all other genes that we'll be discussing is that the green, genetically, the genotype of having both mom and dad having the genetic variant that allows you to continue to break down lactose, compared to the heterozygous or the yellow dot, where you have one parent has the green, one has the copy that lets you break down, the other copy doesn't. This is one case where the yellow dot functions basically like a green dot.
Because you still have the enzyme.
You still have a copy of the gene. You don't need both. You have a copy that allows you to break down lactose.
And specifically to turn on that.
Well, technically it's to keep it on.
Or to keep on that enzyme that then does this. Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of those cases where yellow dots are more like green dots, because in almost all the other cases of all the other genes we're going to talk about, yellow dots are much more like red dots. But this is like one of the only cases where the yellow dots are functionally green. And this comes up when people read the Fitgenes genetic blueprint and they see like the genetic summary at the end of each section, and they see the LCT gene as a yellow, but in the larger single page explanation of like, you're a green dot in lactase, but it shows that you're a yellow dot genetically. But that's because we're talking about function, not the gene itself. In this particular case, the heterozygous yellow dot, it has a similar enough function to the green dot that we're calling it a green dot.
And that's great, because this is one of those times where we can really have a distinction between genes that are getting, we talked about data dumping in a prior episode, and somebody being able to actually do something about or have an understanding of how their genes or their genetic vulnerabilities actually affect their day-to-day. And I think that's really powerful. So I think the question now is really, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this or maybe asking this and want us to answer it, is what is the difference between dairy intolerance or lactose intolerance and a dairy allergy?
Genetic reports are powerful, but only if you can actually interpret them and your clients can really understand what to do and in what priority. If you're a health coach, clinician, or practitioner who feels buried in genetics pathways, complex list of SNPs, and jargon that never seems to end, you're not alone. At FitGenesUSA.com, we make genetics understandable and actionable. FitGenesUSA.com distills the complexity of genetics into practical frameworks that you can use the same day. Faster interpretation, clearer communication, and better outcomes. without spending hours lost in the weeds. Whether you're supporting weight loss, optimizing diet, hormone balance, digestion, inflammation, or getting to the underlying cause of chronic issues, genetic clarity can change everything. FitGenesUSA.com also provides a unique genetic carb tolerance report to help determine whether your clients are better suited to a keto or paleo or Mediterranean or higher carb style diet. Make your practice stand out with this unique report. Save time and energy with clear, easy to read reports and upgrade your practice with precision genetics testing. Start now at FitGenesUSA.com. Decode complexity, deliver results. The word intolerance, and I just want to acknowledge, and we talked about this on another recording, that the word intolerance and allergy is very muddied in the public consciousness. It's kind of like the term parasite. When we look at gut tests, and people are like, oh, I want to check for parasites. I'm like, but from as a clinician, it's like a parasite actually is a very technical distinction, as opposed to a virus, as opposed to a bacterial infection, as opposed to an amoeba, as opposed like there's technical differences, but the public doesn't really know that. So the term allergy and intolerance may get muddied without having some more technical background, and it's not the public's fault, because it's just so it gets so I mean, here, and we're going to go into the technicalities and because there's also a problem with how things were named. The nomenclature also is muddied. So for example, like there's a food intolerance is technically when you lack a specific enzyme like lactase to break down a specific thing like lactose in order, and then you get digestive problems, not because you're having an immune response. You just lack the enzyme. An enzyme is basically a specialized pair of scissors that cuts up a thing. Or sometimes it's an enzyme adds a thing. But in this case, lactase, anytime you have the suffix ase, lactase, it's an enzyme that splits it. Lactase splits up lactose. Sucrase splits up sucrose. And an intolerance is a food intolerance is you're lacking an enzyme. Allergy is when you're having an immune response to it. So like to casein or whey, which are milk proteins, not sugars in dairy, people can have an immune response to those things. And then they're having an allergy, an IgE response. Now here's where it gets confusing. You can have an IgG response or an IgE response. An IgE response is classically associated as an allergy. Your throat swells up, you get hives, anaphylaxis, like that can be very dangerous. An IgG, and that can happen very, 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 very quickly, like almost instantly. Sometimes it's the contact, they can have
breathing it in even.
So then you've got an IgG response, which is a much slower onset immune mobilization. It's a different immunoglobulin, it's a different protein structure, different timeline, different half-life. And that is also called an intolerance, but it's called an immune-mediated intolerance as opposed to not having the lactase enzyme is a non-immune mediated intolerance. So it gets, as you can say, like it gets very, very muddled very quickly. And it would be so much simpler just to say, you're missing the enzyme, it's an intolerance, you have an immune response, it's an allergy. But there's a difference between IgG and IgE allergies. So
and this is why I think it's so confusing for the public.
Totally.
For people, even clinicians listening. It's just confusing. So that makes sense. And so immune mediated has to do with the interaction between the food proteins,
correct. Casein or whey. And so this is where you can get very bizarre combinations where people can have a green dot in their ability to break down lactose sugar, but they drink dairy products and they still have very similar problems to as if they didn't have the lactase enzyme.
This was the case for me
Yeah.
before I did a lot of gut healing and immune mediation and repair.
Yeah.
Because I have a green dot in the lactase enzyme, but I would break out in acne, and I would have, bloating. I didn't as much have difficulty with the diarrhea or loose stools, but it was more trending towards constipation, right? And it was so confusing to me.
Well, when I was growing up, my mom got angry at me because she would buy all this,
As if it's your fault you're choosing it.
Well, she got angry at me because I would have problems with eating dairy, and then she would buy the expensive. This is the '80s, the expensive lactate milk.
Oh yeah.
And then I would still have problems, and then she would at the time she'd get me the lactase enzyme and the lactase, and she would get upset. It's like, what's your problem? Why can't you have dairy? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Stop blaming me for something I can't do.
I just don't feel well.
And it's not so my in her in her defense, she didn't know anything about nutrition.
Right.
After all, she was a medical doctor in the 80s.
Yeah.
Sorry. And worse, a psychiatrist. So in the way that she treated food, any issues people had with food, she thought were psychosomatic. And that at the time there was no awareness or education or frankly care about exploring deeper. And I have the green dot capacity to break down dairy lactose, but I am very reactive to the IgG and the IgEs, so the casein and whey. Not really IgGE. I'm reactive to the casein and whey. And so I would get very, very similar symptoms. And so I just can't do dairy. And
those things, just to clarify, these immune mediated responses, like you're talking about with the IgG, or same thing in my case, I had IgG responses, not any IgE. These can come and go, they're forever. Can you just talk about that? Because I know there's some people listening like, well, what if that is my case?
if you've been struggling with stubborn weight, low energy, inflammation, tried every diet, or just feeling off no matter what you try, there's a reason. Your body isn't broken, you've just never seen the map. The Fitgenes genetic blueprint and the Carb Choice Advanced Profiles give you clear, personalized roadmaps for your health based entirely on unique genetics. This isn't another diet, it's not guesswork, it's not a one-size-fits-all plan. With one simple cheek swab, you finally learn how your body is genetically predisposed to burn fat, handle carbs, detox, manage inflammation, balance hormones, recover from stress, and optimize energy. Instead of forcing your body into plans that don't work, you get a nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, and supplement strategy built precisely for your body, so you can feel more energy, drop inflammation, optimize your body shape, and feel amazing. To find the nearest Fitgenes practitioner near you, go to fitgenesusa.com. That's fitgenesusa.com.
Does that mean like there's...
We're getting on their case about casein? Yes. Okay. So the ways, one of the, so let's, the ways that people, let's just talk about the symptomatology a little bit. So like the reason why people will have, and we'll get to the casein, when people, why do people get these symptoms of bloating and all the rest of it, and diarrhea and indigestion? And
our listeners definitely want to know.
Yeah, listeners want to know why. So what happens is that when you consume lactose sugar and you don't have the enzyme lactase to break it down, you now have this, sugar that's floating in the intestinal system, and then the bacteria look at that and say like, oh look, buffet, because otherwise when you cut it into glucose and galactose, then the body will absorb it and not give the bacteria time to grab it. So now the bacteria can grab this buffet of lactose rather, and then they start to produce carbon dioxide, hydrogen, methane. That's where the smell
Gases.
comes from.
Oh, yeah.
And short chain fatty acids. And then also lactase has what's called osmotic pressure, meaning that it will draw water into the bowels. And that's where the diarrhea comes from.
Off you go.
So if you get this increase in gas and this increase in water, that's where you get the bloating, the foul smelling farts, and also the diarrhea and just the general indigestion.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And then the immunological, like if you're then reactive to casein and whey through different mechanisms, but your immune system is going to generate its own cascade of gas buildup and reactivity and other things. And you can get similar enough symptoms that it can be very confusing. So for people that have, so for people that have lactose intolerance,
Right.
then one thing that you can do is one, just cut out dairy.
Yeah.
The other is that you can look at different types of dairy products that have different amounts of whey in them. So like and in the report there's like a chart, and there's charts everywhere on the internet, but there's charts of like what are the types of dairy foods that have decreasing amounts of whey, and then you can simply switch to different dairy products, asterisk on the assumption you can tolerate the casein and whey that's in those foods.
Yeah.
And if you can't, like, that's why I can't do any dairy except ghee. So ghee has no milk sugar, no lactase, lactose rather, and it has no milk proteins, no casein and whey. It's just pure dairy fat. I can tolerate ghee just fine because I'm not having anything that I'm reactive to in it. So just to give kind of a quick rundown, like the things that have really high levels of lactose include things like whey powder, milk powder, condensed milk, and just milk in general.
And notice the whey powder, even though it's whey powder, milk proteins and milk sugars usually live together.
Yeah.
So just being mindful of that for people who are like, well, whey protein, what's the issue?
The scale drops pretty rapidly. Like whey protein can have per 100 grams anywhere between 39 and 75 grams of lactose in it. Where if you go down to lower full fat milk or modern, it's like 4 to 5 grams of lactose.
Significant reduction.
It's a big drop. And then you can go down further. So things like ricotta cheese is between 1 and 5 grams. Butter is between 0.5 and 1 gram. So a lot of people who are lactose intolerant can kind of skate by with some butters.
Yeah.
And then things like cheddar cheese is 0.1 gram per 100 grams. Swiss cheese is like 0 to 3. Gouda is between 0 to 2 grams. So you can dairy products vary quite widely.
Right.
So there are ways to minimize your lactose exposure. You can also get the enzymes, and there's a lot of digestive enzymes that are out there, whether just solo or in a lot of multi-enzyme functional. A lot of certified health coaches or functional practitioners will have access to professional level enzymes that will likely have lactase in there or other enzymes to help support with digestion.
Yeah.
But one thing that there's these techniques of like changing the dairy products, taking enzymes. But honestly, the most important thing is just to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, do dairy products cause you problems? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Do they cause you problems?
Yeah.
And then to be honest with yourself about that. And if you need to, grieve, like I did, that I just can't do dairy except for ghee. I miss cheese so much.
Yeah.
And I grew up on like Vermont cheddar, like some of the best cheddar around. And I am really, really, really sad I can't do Vermont cheddar anymore. Now, there are other non-dairy alternatives out there, whether it's based on cashew milk or coconut milk or almond or something. I was like, I have a person, like, this is, again, I'm stepping out of the realm of genetics here, but like I personally try to avoid almond products if I can, simply because to grow a pound of almonds is like over 1,000 gallons of water, and it is so wasteful in my opinion. Like so, like 90% of the world's almonds are grown in California, and California's on a constant drought. Well, a not insignificant amount of water is being spent on just almonds. The almond industry has a cutout for water consumption, and I would prefer I personally try to avoid almonds simply because I've lived in California and I'm like the drought sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, back to genetics.
Aside.
TED Talk over. So the
Other things people can do
other
besides
things people can
digestive enzymes.
they can do digestive enzymes. There are alternatives, but the reality is like these alternative dairy products. One, they just really don't necessarily have the mouthfeel of dairy.
And sometimes the other ingredients.
The other
are
ingredient, the
questionable.
other ingredients can cause other issues.
Yeah.
You now are set up with a whole different, set of variables you got to navigate.
Yeah.
Like, are the other ingredients in these things? So for example, I have noticed. So we're recording this in 2026. Okay, this is not 2006.
Yeah.
So the non-dairy industry has matured greatly in the past 2 decades, and I think right now the non-dairy industry has really nailed non-dairy butter alternatives that are both like organic and clean oils and have the exact texture of butter.
I would agree.
And obviously it's dependent on the company and but I have seen at least 2 products that are basically identical.
Yeah.
And these are not sponsored people here. I'm just from what I've seen so far. So this is like the Natural Grocers version, and Miyoko's is probably the first one to market. And like I think the most famous.
Yeah, cashew based.
It's cashew based, and again, you got to watch it if you got a cashew issue. You got a cashew or allergy, and you got a nut allergy. Like these is just straight up nuts make to look like butter. So like if you got a nut allergy, this is just because it looks like butter doesn't mean it's safe for you if you've got a nut allergy.
Right.
And the other types of dairy products that are pretty close are the soft cheese alternatives. Now, again, I would highly encourage people to seek out the ones that are like organic, made from clean oils, not like junk soy or canola oil or a cottonseed oil and all these other really weird industrial oils. But you'd want to seek out things that are made more from cashew, coconut oil, avocado, things like that, and assuming you're not reactive to those things for other reasons.
Yeah.
So it's like the soft cheeses and the butters. The hard non-dairy cheese, it's still not there yet. It's still a bit mealy. It's still a bit weird.
Yeah.
There's maybe some shredded cheddars out there that are kind of like 80% approximate.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give the non-dairy dairy industry probably another 5 years before we've got parity, aside from the super fancy specialty cheeses out of Europe or whatever.
Right.
I'm talking just like butter, a soft cheese, like a couple soft cheeses, a couple hard cheeses like cheddar. I'm going to give the non-dairy dairy industry another 5 years or so before they pretty much got all the bases covered.
Yeah.
And again, check the ingredients.
Yeah.
Always check the ingredients. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to point out is that modern dairy products are not the same as dairy products 50 and especially not 100 years ago. That there was a shift in the dairy industry, especially around like starting from World War I, where we had to do like rationing and preserving food, and then really ramped up around World War II with the introduction of we became into the chemical age and all the rest of it. Is that that we were looking not for quality of dairy fat, which was how dairy used to be judged, at least in America. It switched from quality of dairy fat to volume.
Yep. And we
lose sweetness.
We lose a lot of quality when we increase that.
Yeah.
Volume.
So dairies cattle were bred to just pump out volume and to make less fat because you make more money on having more watered down dairy, and especially when now you're selling low fat milk as some sort of health product. Yeah. And that whole complexity.
Rabbit hole.
That's a whole rabbit hole. So you have the incentive. I forget who said it. I think it was. I'm going to butcher this quote. Charlie Munger, who was one of the most famous investors in the world. He died recently. He said, "Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome." And again, forgive me chat, correct me in the comment section. It helps the algorithm, what he actually said.
Yeah.
And so the incentives changed
Yeah.
in the dairy industry, and also, so you have several incentives. One is you want more volume. The other is you've aggregated all the industrial dairy production and you want to eliminate competition. So now you create very, very difficult laws to push out the small dairy farmer, particularly those that are trying to maintain more the heirloom, high-fat, raw dairy products, and
The things that now everybody wants.
the things that people ever want. And occasionally there's a giant publicized scare, whether it's real or contrived, over the dangers of raw dairy. Like you go literally anywhere else in the world, there's plenty of raw dairy, and they don't have the supposed panics. But when you have unsanitary, the real problems were where you had mass dairy agriculture with deeply, deeply unsanitary practices that then required ultra pasteurization, regular pasteurization, lots of chemicals, cleaning, all these things to sterilize, because they were creating dairy in deeply unhygienic and toxic and highly pathogenic producing environments. And so then it just became this feedback loop of, in the name of safety, we're going to have to sterilize everything. Well, you could have just actually produced dairy much more cleanly and not had such high volume, disgusting, cruel practices towards the dairy cattle, and then create these chemical-based sterile and heat-based sterilization solutions to problems you created, and then forcing those solutions on other dairy producers that aren't doing the unsanitary and cruel methods of dairy production you were doing, and then enshrining that in law and shutting them down. I mean, there's very famous videos of the feds raiding guns drawn into a raw dairy farm. There's videos of this online, and it's like, why aren't they going in guns blazing into a tobacco factory?
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is clearly like a mafiosa-esque thing that's happening in the dairy industry. Now, fortunately, there's a lot of pushback, and now there's a lot more opportunity for raw milk done correctly to emerge into the market. And there's things like cattle shares and dairy shares and ways to...
I would highly encourage people to look into if
they can tolerate. Again, we come back to, let's be honest with yourself. Is dairy even a possible thing?
Yeah.
Not even, that's the first question that has to be answered, not where are you sourcing your dairy and what's the quality of it. It's down the list. Like, can you even tolerate it?
Yeah.
So the dairy is, I mean, going back to what we were talking about before, like, dairy is everywhere.
Yeah.
And we just need to have a genetic reality check on our relationship to lactose, and also a reality check on how we symptomatically feel around, even if we've perfectly mediated lactose, whether through enzymes, reducing volume, switching our dairy products to low lactase, lactose containing foods, or are we taking external enzymes?
Yeah.
Can we navigate the casein or whey? Yes or no?
Absolutely. And that's so helpful for our listeners, and there's so much context here, and I hope this was helpful for people. Any last takeaways or last thing or two? I know Lily is.
I don't know if you guys can hear that, but Lily's snoring.
She's done.
She's like... I'm sorry to bore my poor dog. Okay.
But I feel like you gave us some clear direction. But any final thoughts?
So just be honest with yourself around dairy, and understand that there are ways to reduce your exposure, whether or not you have the lactose the lactase gene or not, whether you've got sensitivity to casein or whey or not. There are alternatives out there, but they may have their own issues.
Yeah.
You've got to read ingredients. The other thing that is benefit about today, but it's 2026, not 2006. Going to an event or a restaurant or a friend's house or whatever, saying you're dairy free is now totally understood and normal. Yeah. I was
looked at like you have a third
I was
eye.
at the bleeding edge of that I took the slings and arrows for you all. Like I distinctly remember just how socially awkward and how socially shamed I was, and how I had to make this decision of like, do I sacrifice my health and my digestion in the name of a social event?
Yeah, and I think that still is something that a lot of people struggle with now. So you sharing that, I think, is really helpful. I've been there too. I've had, you know, your grandmother would be so disappointed. I'm like, my grandmother, she probably could tolerate, you know, these things.
So let me give some offerings on that. Like for people who are like, what do I say to people?
Yeah.
What do I say to people that where this is a social hazard?
Yeah.
So here's what I've come to is you always start with gratitude. You know what? Thank you so much for the offer. This looks and smells
amazing.
Delicious. I am so envious. And I will sit here and quietly pout at how delicious this looks.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoy it, because you know you got to enjoy it for two.
Yeah.
Because I personally am unable to, as much as I want to.
Yeah.
I'm unable to enjoy this. But I am so grateful that you thought of me and that you cooked this or presented this to me, and that the intention means more to me than the flavor.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I wish I could participate.
Yeah. It's great. That's a great.
Done.
To write it down. Yeah.
Or transcribe it or whatever.
Transcribe it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's going to really help a lot of people. I know I talk about this a lot with my own clients on a day-to-day, and I even have had it in my own life. So thank you for sharing. So,
absolutely.
This has been a great conversation, and we hope everyone learned something. Please be sure to subscribe. If you want to find a Fitgenes practitioner to help you with lactose intolerance or other...
Or the many other genes, many other genes.
Fitgenesusa.com, right? Yeah. And if you're not a practitioner, you can find a practitioner on there as well. So,
absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Fitgenes podcast. If you're a practitioner or certified health coach or clinician, visit Fitgenesusa.com to confidently bring genetics into your practice and improve your clients' outcomes. If you're a health seeker or lifelong learner or biohacker, go to Fitgenesusa.com to find the nearest Fitgenes practitioner near you. If you got value from today's episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. Every 5-star rating helps others find this show and unlock the power of their own genetic blueprint. Until next time, remember, genetics doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs the right blueprint.